When I was little, bedtime used to feel like the safest part of my day. My room was small, warm, and always smelled faintly like the lavender spray my mom used on my pillow. I'd curl up with my blanket, hug my stuffed dog, and watch the soft glow-in-the-dark stars fade across the ceiling. Nothing ever felt threatening back then. The world was simple, and the scariest thing I knew was the sound of the wind rattling the windows during a storm. But even in that peaceful routine, there was one thing I never liked: the closet door. It didn't have a proper latch, so it never stayed fully shut. Every night it would sit there slightly open, like it was waiting for something to come out or whisper something back. I used to close it myself, pushing it tight and pretending that meant I was in control. Kids believe the smallest things can protect them, and for a while, I did too. Still, I always felt like I wasn't completely alone in that room. Not in a terrifying way at first, more like someone was watching over me, curious, as if I was sharing the space. Sometimes I talked to the empty air and imagined someone listening. My parents thought it was just a phase. Every kid has an imaginary friend, right? And for a long time, I convinced myself that's all it was. But back then, I didn't realize that imaginary friends don't usually make requests. They don't whisper your name when the lights go out. And they definitely don't ask you to leave the closet door open, so they can come out and play. And that was only the beginning. The first time something felt truly off, it didn't start with a scream or a nightmare. It started with a whisper. One quiet night, long after my parents had gone to bed, I woke up to the sound of someone saying my name. Soft, barely there, almost like a breath instead of a voice. At first, I thought I was dreaming. Kids have wild imaginations, and mine was always working overtime. But then it happened again, a gentle, drawn-out whisper, like someone was trying to get my attention without waking anyone else. My eyes drifted toward the closet. The door, which I knew I had pushed closed, was sitting slightly open again. Just like always, only this time, I didn't feel annoyed. I felt cold, like the air around me had turned into this heavy, unmoving stillness. I tried convincing myself it was just the house settling, or the heater kicking on. But houses don't whisper your name, and they definitely don't make the darkness inside your closet look deeper, almost like there was space in there that shouldn't exist for a moment. I told myself to be brave. I pulled the blanket up to my nose and squeezed my stuffed toy tight, waiting for the whisper again. If I didn't hear it, maybe it was just my mind playing games. Maybe sleep would sweep the whole thing away, but the room stayed silent, too silent, and that silence felt louder than any sound. I tried to close my eyes, thinking everything would go back to normal in the morning. I didn't know it yet, but that whisper wasn't the start of a nightmare. It was a warning, and something was already awake a few nights later. Whatever was in that room decided it didn't want to hide anymore. I remember lying on my side, half asleep, when I heard the softest sound, like tiny fingernails tapping wood. Not fast, slow and rhythmic, like someone testing the surface. Tap, tap, tap. It was coming from the closet. I froze. I didn't move a muscle or even breathe too loudly. My eyes slowly opened, and the first thing I saw was that same door pushed open wider than before. This time, it wasn't a crack. It was wide enough that someone or something could step out. I wanted to call for my parents, but my voice didn't work. Fear just pinned me there. And then in the middle of that heavy silence, I heard a faint giggle. Not happy, not playful. More like someone pretending to be a child. The tapping stopped. Then something shifted inside the closet, like weight moving across the floorboards. A shadow stretched out across the carpet, long and thin, even though there was no light in that corner. It didn't make sense. Shadows don't move on their own. They don't reach. And then, I saw it. A small hand, pale and delicate, slipped out from behind the doorframe. Just the hand, resting on the edge like it was waiting for permission to come the rest of the way out. My heart felt like it stopped. My body refused to move, like something invisible was holding me still. All I could do was watch as that hand slowly curled its fingers, almost waving, but not like a greeting. More like beckoning. I squeezed my eyes shut and prayed it would go away. I didn't open them again until morning sunlight touched my face. When I finally dared to look, the closet was closed perfectly shut like nothing had happened at all. But I knew better. Something was in that room with me, and it was getting braver. It didn't take long before whatever was in that closet decided watching me wasn't enough. It wanted me to know it was real. The night it happened, the air felt different the moment I laid down. Heavy, still. Like the room was holding its breath with me. I tried to fall asleep anyway, clutching my blanket like a shield. Minutes passed, maybe hours, and just when I thought I was safe, I heard it again. Not a whisper this time, not tapping, breathing slow, steady breathing right behind me. My back was facing the closet. If I rolled over, I'd be looking straight at it, and part of me already knew something was there, staring, waiting, but turning felt impossible. My body locked up, every muscle tight, like fear had tied strings around me. The breathing got louder, closer. Then a small voice whispered, almost touching my ear, "Turn around. I want to see you." I couldn't. I just couldn't. Tears filled my eyes, and I felt the mattress dip, something small, light, like a child, climbing onto it. The sheets tightened around my legs as if little hands were crawling up, exploring. I wanted to scream, but the sound stopped in my throat. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. Whatever it was, it leaned in. I could feel the warmth of a face hovering inches from mine. And then it giggled, soft, delighted, like it was finally getting what it wanted. Suddenly, the hallway light snapped on, and footsteps rushed toward my room. Whatever was beside me vanished so fast the mattress bounced back. My door swung open, and my mom stepped inside, asking why I was awake. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I just stared at her, shaking, hoping she didn't see the tiny impression on the mattress beside me, the little shape that was still there, slowly fading, as if something had only just slipped away. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. I wasn't dealing with an imaginary friend. I had given something else permission to stay. For days after that, I refused to sleep without a light on. I told myself the brightness would keep whatever it was away, like darkness was the only thing it needed to exist. My parents thought I was just going through a phase, maybe scared from a movie or a nightmare. They couldn't understand it, and I didn't know how to explain something I barely believed myself. But one night, everything changed. My dad came home late from work, tired and frustrated. He didn't buy my stories about the closet or the whispers, and when he saw the lamp still glowing in my room, he sighed and reached to turn it off. "Lights off," he said softly. "You need real sleep, not shadows and imagination." I begged him not to. I remember grabbing his sleeve, practically shaking. "Please don't turn it off. It doesn't like the dark." Before I could finish, the closet door creaked. Slow, loud, and this time we both heard it. My dad froze. His hand stopped midair. Then the tapping started again, the same faint rhythm I'd heard before, only this time it sounded sharper, almost impatient. "Tap, tap, tap." My dad tried to brush it off. "Old house, wood shifts," he muttered, but his voice wasn't steady anymore. Then came the whisper, low, breathy, and unmistakably close. "Don't turn it off." My dad snapped upright like someone had pulled a string in his spine. His eyes locked onto the closet, now cracked open wider than it had been a moment before. The tapping stopped. The whisper faded. But something else happened. Something worse. A tiny handprint appeared on the inside of the closet door. Clear as day. Too small to be mine. Too perfect to be a smudge. Like someone had pressed their palm there and dragged it downward slightly, as if they were waiting just behind it. My dad didn't say a word. He grabbed my arm, pulled me out of the bed, and marched us out of the room. The hallway light felt blinding, almost unreal after what we'd heard. He shut my bedroom door and stood there breathing hard, staring at the floor like he was trying to make sense of what just happened. For the first time, I saw fear in his face, real fear. He didn't tell me I was imagining things again. He didn't turn the light off, and in that silence, I understood something chilling. I wasn't the only one who heard it anymore. I wasn't the only one it wanted. After that night, everything changed. My parents didn't argue with me about the lights anymore. They didn't tell me ghosts weren't real or that I needed to be brave. They didn't even let me sleep in that room again. My dad moved a mattress into the living room, right near the hallway light, and I slept there for almost a month. They tried to act like it was temporary, like the house was just settling, or maybe I was having stress dreams. But I saw the way my dad stared down the hallway at night, shoulders tense, listening for sounds he pretended he didn't believe in. He left the hallway light on every night too. That wasn't for me, that was for him. Eventually, they packed up my room. Quietly. No drama, no discussion. My mom folded my clothes, my dad sealed boxes, and neither of them opened the closet again, they just taped it shut. We moved my things into the guest room, but I didn't use the closet there either. I couldn't. I left the door wide open every night just so I could see nothing was hiding inside. For a while, the house felt calm again. Too calm. Like whatever had been there was watching from a distance, waiting. I started to sleep through the night, but I never forgot the feeling of breath behind me, or that giggle that didn't belong to anything human. Sometimes even now I still hear things. A quiet tap when the room is still. A soft laugh on nights when I think too hard about the past. On bad nights, I catch myself glancing at closet doors in other people's houses, just to make sure they're closed, or wide open. Anything but cracked. My parents tell me it's over. They say childhood fears fade as you grow up, but there's one thing I've learned that they still refuse to acknowledge. When something finds you once, it doesn't always let go, and some closets don't hold clothes. They hold memories and things that remember you back. When you're a kid, you never think about the age of a house. You don't care if it creaks, if the wallpaper is peeling, or if the basement smells like dust and old wood. It's just another place to explore, another home filled with hiding spots and secrets only kids pay attention to. Every summer I visited my cousin's place. Their house was ancient, built long before cell phones, before cars, probably before light bulbs. The floors groaned under every step, the pipes hissed strangely at night, and the windows rattled during windy evenings, like someone was knocking gently from outside. But to us, it was paradise, long hallways to race down, creaky doors to hide behind, and a backyard that seemed wild enough to hold buried treasure. My cousin and I would spend hours inventing games tag, treasure hunt, and our all-time favorite, hide and seek. It didn't matter that the house looked like it had lived 100 lives before ours. It didn't matter that certain rooms always felt colder, or that some doors we were told never to open to us. It was just, when you're a kid, you never think about the age of a house. You don't care if it creaks, if the wallpaper is peeling, or if the basement smells like dust and old wood. It's just another place to explore, another home filled with hiding spots and secrets only kids pay attention to. Every summer I visited my cousin's place. Their house was ancient, built long before cell phones, before cars, probably before light bulbs. The floors groaned under every step, the pipes hissed strangely at night, and the windows rattled during windy evenings, like someone was knocking gently from outside. But to us, it was paradise, long hallways to race down, creaky doors to hide behind, and a backyard that seemed wild enough to hold buried treasure. My cousin and I would spend hours inventing games tag, treasure hunt, and our all-time favorite, hide and seek. It didn't matter that the house looked like it had lived 100 lives before ours. It didn't matter that certain rooms always felt colder, or that some doors we were told never to open to us. It was just childhood. A little scary sometimes. Sure, every old house has its creepy corners, but we never imagined anything truly wrong with it. Not yet back then, the basement door was just another door in a weird old house. I didn't know it was the one place no one ever went. I didn't know why the adults always kept it locked, and I didn't know I'd soon learn that some hiding spots aren't meant to be found. It started on one of those slow, warm afternoons, the kind where the sun feels heavy and time drags in that lazy, sleepy summer way. My cousin and I had been running around the yard, tired and sweaty, when she suggested hide and seek inside. I agreed immediately. The house always felt cooler, like it held its breath against the heat outside. She covered her eyes and started counting loud, dramatic. the way kids do when they're trying to scare you more than play with you. I slipped inside, the screen door clicking shut behind me, and scanned the hallway for a hiding spot. Almost every place had been used before, except one. The basement door, tall, old, heavy wood with iron hinges, always locked, always ignored. But this time, it wasn't fully shut. It sat barely cracked, like someone had forgotten to close it all the way or had just gone down there. I didn't go inside. I just crouched beside it, thinking I'd found the perfect spot. Close enough to hear footsteps, hidden enough to win. I held my breath, smiling to myself, listening to my cousins shout numbers in the backyard. Then a sound. Not footsteps, not the house settling. A whisper, soft, faint, like someone trying to speak without being caught. "Hey," I froze. My cousin's voice never sounded like that. Too young, too close, too quiet. I leaned in just slightly, heart thumping, curiosity fighting fear. Maybe I heard wrong. Maybe it was the wind. Then came a giggle. A small one, light, childlike. A chill crawled up my spine. I backed away from the door slowly, suddenly wishing I was outside again. In the sun, where things made sense. I told myself it was pipes, old houses do weird things. But the truth lingered, heavy and cold. That wasn't the house, that wasn't imagination. It was the first time the basement felt aware of me. Like something down there had noticed I was listening. I should have run outside right then. But curiosity does strange things to kids. I stayed frozen, staring at that cracked basement door like it could suddenly snap open. The air around it felt heavier, colder, the kind of cold that doesn't come from temperature, but from something unseen paying attention to you. Then it happened. The whisper came again, but clearer this time, right behind the door, like a mouth was inches away from the wood. A child's voice, soft, eager, almost friendly. "Come down, I'll hide with you." Every hair on my body stood up. That voice wasn't my cousin. It was younger, too young, and playful in a way that wasn't playful. It sounded like a kid pretending to be excited but forcing it, like a doll with the wrong voice coming out. My throat closed. My hands started shaking. I backed away slowly, staring at the door like if I blinked, something would crawl out. Then, these footsteps. Tiny ones. Light. Rapid, coming up the basement stairs. One step, then another faster. Like something small was hurrying up to meet me. But no one had gone down there. No one could. The stairs were broken, blocked off, dangerous. Yet something was climbing toward me anyway. The crack in the door widened just the slightest bit as a faint pressure pushed against it. I swear I saw a shadow shift through that tiny opening. Not tall, not adult, child-sized. Waiting, I didn't think. I didn't breathe. I ran, heart punching my ribs, eyes burning, feet barely touching the floor. I didn't look back. I didn't want to see if the door opened all the way. That was the moment I knew whatever was in that basement wasn't just old pipes or settling wood. It wanted me to go down there, and it didn't want to play fair. I burst into the hallway, gasping, trying to swallow air that suddenly felt too thick. But something made me stop. Maybe instinct, maybe fear. Maybe the terrible curiosity that only kids are stupid enough to listen to. I turned back. The house was quiet, painfully quiet, like it was holding its breath along with me. Then from behind the basement door, a soft giggle. Not happy, not playful. A giggle that sounded wrong, too close, too real. Like someone stood on the other side, pressing their face against the door, trying not to laugh too loudly, trying not to get caught. My legs tightened. Every instinct screamed, "Run," but something inside me whispered, "What if it opens the door if you move?" So I did nothing. I stood there trembling, eyes locked on that thin strip of darkness beneath the door. And then, a shadow slid across it. Small, childlike, pausing right at the crack as if it knew I was watching. The whisper returned, barely a breath. "Come play." That broke me. I turned and sprinted, nearly tripping over my own feet as I tore down the hallway. But before I cleared the corner, I heard it 3 slow knocks on the inside of the basement door, not frantic, not random measured. Like a child mimicking the way adults knock. Tap, tap, tap. It wasn't trying to chase me. It wanted me to come back. That was the worst part, knowing whatever was down there wasn't angry. It was patient, curious, almost lonely, and loneliness, when it comes from something that shouldn't exist at all, is far more terrifying than rage. I didn't stop running until I reached the backyard. My cousin looked up from where she was stacking sticks, confused, like I'd just teleported out of thin air. My chest was heaving so hard I couldn't get words out fast enough. I heard, "Someone? Basement," she frowned. "What basement? It's locked." She said it casually, like it was obvious, like everyone knew that basement door wasn't supposed to open. Before I could answer, the backyard gate creaked open. Her mom stepped outside carrying laundry, but froze mid-step when she saw my face. I must have looked pale, eyes wide, shaking like I'd stepped out of a nightmare. "What happened?" she asked sharply. I tried explaining the whispering, the footsteps, the voice asking me to come play. My cousin went silent. Her face lost its playful look, replaced by something I didn't recognize at the time, fear she had been trying to ignore. Her mom didn't laugh. She didn't tell me I imagined it. She didn't say it was just an old house making noises. Instead, she asked only one question, her voice low. "You didn't open the door, did you?" I shook my head. She exhaled slowly, like she'd been holding her breath for years. She wasn't relieved, more like she had just avoided something worse. Without another word, she grabbed us both and led us inside. But she didn't walk past the basement door. She stayed far from it, like she didn't want to be near it any more than I did. For the first time, I realized I wasn't the only one who heard things in that house. And whatever lived down there, the adults already knew it wasn't something you explain away. They just didn't talk about it. Because sometimes acknowledging something means it might acknowledge you back. After that day, I refused to play inside the house. I didn't go near that hallway, and I never looked at the basement door again. But even avoiding it didn't help. Because once you hear something like that, once you know it's real, your mind doesn't let it go at night. I'd lie awake in the guest room, staring at the ceiling and trying not to listen. But the house didn't care what I wanted. Every so often, I'd hear faint tapping somewhere in the walls, like tiny footsteps pacing. And once, just once, I swore I heard that same giggle drift through the vents, floating down the hallway like it was searching for someone to play with. I told myself I imagined it. Kids imagine things. That's what grown-ups always say. Except the grown-ups here didn't argue. They just kept the basement locked, avoided the hallway after dark, and pretended everything was normal. A few weeks later, my cousin's family moved out without warning. No one explained why, no farewell party, no goodbyes to neighbors. They packed everything in one weekend and never looked back. It wasn't until years later that I learned the truth from the old neighbor across the street, the one who'd lived there forever. He mentioned a little boy who once lived in the house decades earlier, a boy who fell through the rotten basement stairs and never came back up. And suddenly everything made sense. The whispers, the footsteps, the laughter creeping down the hallway at night. That child never left. He was still waiting for someone to join him in the dark. To this day, I hate basements. Not because they're dark or dusty, but because every time I see one, a voice in the back of my mind whispers the same thing I heard when I was a kid. "Come down. I'll hide with you, and no matter how much time passes, I'll never forget the feeling that something, someone, is still waiting down there." Growing up, I always thought my house was safe. A quiet neighborhood, a fenced backyard, and a room tucked in the corner of the second floor. My own little world. My window faced the yard, birds in the morning, crickets at night, peaceful, predictable, comfortable. And right beside my bed slept my best friend, my dog, Bruno. He wasn't just a pet, he was a guardian in fur, always calm, always gentle, always by my side. Back then, I believed nothing bad could ever reach me in that house, especially not through my bedroom window. But childhood innocence has an expiration date, and mine shattered the night Bruno broke character and growled at something only he could sense first. Because monsters don't always hide under the bed sometimes. They stand right outside your window. It started subtly, the kind of thing you brush off as imagination. One night I woke up to a faint tapping. Not loud, not frantic, just rhythmic, like fingernails quietly tapping glass. Tap, tap, tap. Half asleep, I thought it was branches swaying in the wind, until I remembered something that made my skin crawl. There were no trees near my window. Bruno lifted his head, ears stiff, on alert. No bark. Just a low, uneasy whine the sound dogs make when they sense something they can't understand, or something they fear. I held my breath. The tapping stopped. Silence. I convinced myself it was nothing, just my mind playing tricks. But that silence wasn't comforting. It felt watching, not peaceful. Like something out there paused, waiting for me to fall back asleep. I rolled over, pulled the blanket to my chin, and shut my eyes tight. And in that thick, heavy stillness, Bruno pressed closer to me, as if he already knew this wasn't the end, but the beginning. The night it truly happened, there was no slow buildup, no gentle tapping, no warning. I woke up because Bruno was growling a low, trembling sound I had never heard from him. His fur stood straight up, and his body was angled toward the window like he was staring down a predator. Half asleep, confused, I followed his gaze, and my heart stopped. There, inches from my face, separated only by a thin pane of glass, was a face. Not like a burglar or a curious neighbor. No, this face was wrong. It was too pale, almost chalk white, lit only by moonlight. Its eyes were wide open, unblinking, glassy like they were staring through me instead of at me. And the smile, it wasn't friendly. It wasn't playful. It was stretched too wide, too still, a smile that felt learned, like something trying to imitate being human. I froze. My voice died in my throat. Even breathing felt loud, dangerous. Bruno let out a sharp bark, the loudest sound I'd ever heard him make, and the face snapped back from the glass like it had been yanked into darkness. Just gone. No shadow running. No footsteps. No noise at all. Just silence. And the echo of my dog's growl in a room suddenly too cold to breathe in. For a long moment, I stared at the empty window, shaking, waiting for the face to return. It didn't. But the smile, that impossible, unnatural smile, was burned into me forever. My scream finally broke free. I scrambled out of bed so fast I tripped over my blanket, hitting the floor hard. Bruno ran to the door, barking furiously now, so loud it echoed through the house. I flicked my bedroom lights on, shaking so badly I could barely breathe. My dad burst in seconds later, eyes wide, half asleep but already in defense mode. "What happened? What happened?" All I could do was point at the window. My voice cracked as I forced the words out. Someone was staring at me, smiling. Dad rushed to the glass, yanked the curtains open, and looked out into nothing but our dark, quiet backyard. He grabbed a flashlight and stormed outside in his pajama pants, muttering that no one should be near his kid's window. I stayed inside, clutching Bruno like he was the only thing keeping me alive. The yard was still, silent, undisturbed. Dad walked slowly along the window, sweeping the beam across the dirt and grass. "No footprints," he said. "Nobody's here." But I wasn't convinced. Something had been there. Something had looked at me like it already knew me, like it was waiting. Dad locked every door and window twice that night. And even when we tried to sleep, the house felt wrong, like something outside was still watching, still smiling in the dark just beyond the glass. For years, my family pretended that night never happened. Dad chalked it up to a nightmare mixed with shadows, even though he triple locked the doors every night for a month afterward and put motion lights in the backyard. But the truth never really stays buried. It finally slipped out one quiet evening last year, when Mom and I were talking about strange childhood memories. I joked nervously, Remember when I thought some weirdo was smiling in my window? Mom didn't laugh. Instead, she went still, like someone had pressed pause on her face. Then she exhaled, long and shaky, and whispered, "We heard things too, before you were born." I froze. What things? Her eyes drifted to that old window, the one we never opened, even in summer. "Scratching," she said. "Almost every night. Light at first, then harder, like fingernails." I felt my chest tighten. "And your father saw something once," she continued. "He never told you." My heart dropped. What did he see? She didn't answer with words, just lifted her hand and slowly dragged her fingertips down the air, mimicking a long, slow scrape across glass. My skin crawled. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" I whispered. Mom's voice trembled. "Because we thought it stopped. And because parents don't want to scare their children." Then she looked right at me, eyes full of something I didn't want to understand. "But you saw it too." In that moment, there was no comforting lie left. No dream to blame. No imagination. We both knew. Whatever smiled at me that night had been there long before I ever was. I didn't sleep in that room again. Not after that conversation. Not after realizing my childhood terror wasn't a hallucination, but something my parents had lived with too. We moved a year later. New house, new neighborhood, fresh walls without memories. But I still sleep with curtains shut tight. I still check every window lock before bed. I still avoid mirrors at night, because reflections sometimes show what the dark is hiding. Bruno passed away when I was 14. And I'll never forget, the night before he died, he sat at my bedroom door facing that window, growling softly, like he heard something I couldn't, like something had found us again. Mom still refuses to talk about it. Dad pretends it never happened. And every now and then, usually past midnight, I wake up with the feeling that someone is watching me. Oh, sometimes I think I hear that slow, soft scratching on glass. Far away, but getting closer. And in the silence of those moments, I can't help but wonder, that face I saw as a kid, was it trying to get in? Or was it waiting for me to come back?